I have fond memories of playing Kerbal Space Program as a kid, launching garbage into space, flying ICBMs into the VAB, and blasting Jeb into the abyss.
So much space.
Well, things have changed. KSP 2 was announced all the way back in 2019, with it being delayed for 3 years, only for us to get this.
Did you like building rockets in KSP 1? Go f yourself, because we have had a bug that has existed since 2013 where your ship turns into a dildo and violently wobbles.
Should have bought beer instead.
KSP2 is like jerking off for 3 years, and when you finally finish, just a puff of smoke comes out.
How to Game Studio. Buy successful IP. Promise players everything they wanted. Sell underwhelming early access. Fire all devs. Continue selling underwhelming early access despite no one working on the game.
So what happened? Basically, greed. They marketed the shit out of the sequel, with these big trailer animations and announcements, only to release a crappy game, slap early access on it, and give us essentially none of what they promised before completely killing the development. That's right, this game is essentially just an unfinished version of the first game. Playing Kerbal Space Program 1 with mods already surpasses this sequel, and that game was released over 10 years ago. KSP 2 is probably the best example of a scam in the gaming industry. This is literally abandonware, games that get over-marketed and pumped out for cash, only to be completely abandoned or half-baked in the end. And there's been other big games at launch where they completely under-delivered, releasing a buggy unfinished mess instead of what they promised their community, like Cyberpunk 2077 and No Man's Sky, but they at least had the common sense to actually fix the game and follow through with things they promised on adding, and now they're actually pretty good games. And then you have games like Anthem by EA. They released something terrible, and upon realizing it was actually awful, they killed the development of the game instead of reworking it, which just demonstrates the amazing attitude at EA, which totally isn't centered solely on profit. So why was KSP 2 abandoned? So in short, Take-Two Interactive fired all of the developers. In 2020, the year the game was supposed to be released in, they switched developers from Star Fury to their own internal studio, Private Division. And then they tried to poach prior employees. What ended up happening was a total organizational nightmare. They essentially completely switched developers halfway through production, which I imagine caused many issues. Take-Two Interactive acquired Kerbal Space Program in 2017, the same year that they started working on KSP 2. Judging by the 2023 release date, that means this game was in development for 6 years. The general reception when the game came out was what you would expect. People hated it, and the game was filled with game-breaking bugs. The developers did fix a numerous amount of bugs that the game had following the game's release, but they were shortly laid off anyways, meaning that the game will never have the features that they promised, such as missing multiplayer and lacking any form of interstellar travel, not to mention the horrible performance of this game, with its crashes and very low frame rates on what would be considered really good graphics cards, and just overall instability in general. As a result of the mess that KSP 2 was, people have just largely reverted back to the first game, with mods like Real Solar System, Realism Overhaul, and other visual enhancements, as it's just a better game. It just goes to show how little Take-Two Interactive cares about KSP, as modders working for free have delivered more content to the community than a multi-million-dollar game studio. Even today, things for Kerbal Space Program 2 are looking bleak. There's no continued development of the game in sight as of 2025, with the game still being sold on Steam for a whopping £45, with only 8% recent positive reviews. Kerbal Space Program demonstrates what happens when greedy corporations with no intention on making a game for anything but profit get a hold of highly regarded IPs. This game was delayed for 3 years, and even after its early access release, it is still in early access to this day, and it seems like it always will be. It's disappointing to see what happened with Kerbal Space Program 2, with the developers completely abandoning the community with no updates and no announcements for months, whilst leaving the game up for sale, essentially just giving the fanbase a big middle finger. Take-Two Interactive is largely at fault for what happened, and just proves to everyone that large companies within gaming are usually the most predatory and untrustworthy. That's about it for this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing, and if there's any other games or ideas you think I should cover, just comment down below what you want to see in future videos. Bye.